Great. Welcome everybody to this session on winning the hearts and minds of key stakeholders. And this evening we're absolutely delighted to welcome Bart, who's come along to speak to us from, and my apologies in advance, I did ask Bart's advice on how to pronounce this and I'm just going to fail, but Bart can correct me, and my apologies. But the organization is called Mindful Rijk, and which means Commonwealth in English, and is a mindful program within the Dutch national government aimed at strengthening resilience, performance and job satisfaction. Bart is very kindly going to shed particularly some light on how to communicate, to create a name for our initiatives, to position mindfulness as a foundational capacity, and partnering with opinion leaders. So a rich area of conversation here. So and as I say, we're going to have a conversation and then we're going to open it up for questions and answers after about 20-25 minutes. So Bart, tell us a little bit, well, firstly, could you pronounce it correctly for us, please?
I would not recommend translating it anyways, but it's Mindful Rijk. I think you came quite close, Andrew. Yeah.
That's very generous of you. Could you perhaps could you perhaps tell us a little bit about what it is from your perspective? Yeah.
Sure. So Mindful Rijk is basically a nationwide initiative in the Netherlands for the Dutch national government. And actually, recently it grown out to include also positive psychology. So we now position ourselves as an expertise center for mindfulness and positive psychology for the Dutch national government. And yeah, we aim to make it more widespread, accessible and attractive for more people to engage in mindfulness training. And yeah, also to put this on a strategic level within the Dutch national organizations. So perhaps the easiest way to explain this is to use a picture, because picture says more than 1,000 words. So I'll save you a couple because of that. So we made this some time ago. So there have been some updates, but still broadly speaking, it applies still now. So in the bottom right, you see our mission, which translates to creating a positive working environment within the Dutch national government. People increase their work satisfaction, engagement, performance, and also become more resilient for the Netherlands. Because as a Dutch public servant, everything you do in principle is in benefit for the whole of the Netherlands. So it includes this meaning aspect as well. So on the bottom, on the top left, did I just say bottom right? Because I meant top right. Okay, top right, the sun, that helped. On the top left, you see the strategic aims of the Dutch national government. So this is like a high-level HR roadmap for the future. And these tie in very well with the outcomes of mindfulness. So it's about inclusivity, it's about people-oriented management, it's about resilience, flexibility, constant development, positive work engagement, which is in our mission, and also aimed at the leadership. So we were inspired by this to start the program. Now I should say, perhaps Andrew, it's also good to distinguish what I do for Mindful Rijk and what Inge does, but I can do that after I first elaborate on the program. What do you prefer?
Yeah, I think that'd be great. If you could just build out a little on the program and then we can look at the different functions. Yeah.
All right. So you see these 5 arrows going into the country. It's from the south, but it's not necessarily the direction we're taking. It was just more convenient to graphic it out like this. And these stand for our 5 activities, pillars, you could say. So the first one is trainings and workshops, which is training people in the skills of mindfulness. The second one is the Train the Trainer program. So what we found is that people who are already working inside the Dutch national government if they become a qualified mindfulness trainer, they are far more powerful ambassadors to spread it within their organizations. In comparison, when an organization would get someone externally. So that's why we aim to launch that. When we just launched this program, and it has 10 people who will be qualified mindfulness instructors, MBSR based. So that's a second. The third one's also very important. It says impact measurement, you could say. So it's research. And after each training we give, which are typically 8-week based MBPs, I think we call them, right? And it shows what the impact is for this organization. So we can also tie it to their strategic goals, etc. The fourth one is learning development and innovation, which is about developing new products, which are relevant for, well, the Dutch national organizations. One thing we recently developed is a masterclass mindful leadership. And it's so very popular because it's one-off, it's 2 hours. So it's not an 8-week program where you have to practice every day for half an hour to an hour. But it is like a gateway drug to the 8-week mindful leadership training. So it's a very nice invention, and it's very popular. So very happy about that. And the fifth one is community. And I have to say, we have not yet launched this, but we see so much potential in it because, as you may know, it's not always easy to maintain your practice. And after someone finishes their mindfulness training, typically what I see is they are so enthusiastic. They want to keep doing it. But then, you know, the ordinary days come and then it just falls away. So we want to build an ecosystem, which doesn't have to be expensive, where people can every week, every day can meditate together with other colleagues within the Dutch national government, which we can do online, of course. So this is one way we want to work on the community. So in the middle of the country, you see all of the different outcomes. So more focus, more stress resilience, better relationship, innovation, work satisfaction, authenticity, etc. And then you see a couple of flags, which are our ambitions. We want to have high quality. So we rate every training, etc. What we do, we want to at least exceed 8 on a scale of 10. We want to train 10,000 people in 8-week mindfulness programs, which is quite a steep goal. But you have to know that we have 120,000 people in the Dutch national government, so it should be feasible. And you see this thing called oplaadruimte. So we used to have smoking rooms, right, in every building, and these are managed by our Dutch national building management organization. And so we are in talks with them to convert all of these previous smoking areas into meditation areas. So that's something nice. And so here on the bottom, you see the 12 ministries of the Netherlands. And from there, you also have the executive branches. So you have the Ministry of Finance, and then you have the Tax and Revenue Service below that. Yeah, so that's our program in a nutshell. We've been doing this now since 2018. I've joined in 2019, and things are going fast. It's also very volatile. It's difficult, but at the same time, things are going quite well. But it's a roller coaster ride as well.
Thank you so much. And just in terms of full disclosure, I spent longer than I'm going to admit, but in the UK civil service. So this is a very familiar landscape to me. And you know, what you're trying to achieve is wonderful to see, absolutely wonderful. And I can imagine some of the challenges that you're facing if your civil service is anything like ours, but also some of the wonderful opportunities and joys that I'm sure are along that road. Can I ask about funding? I know this is slightly off track, but is it funded from within the within the government, or are you inviting people to pay privately? How's that working?
Yeah, good one. Maybe I'll elaborate on that, and also distinguish a little bit what my role is in Mindful Rijk, and Inge, who is not here today. So you have a bit of an idea where it's coming from. So Inge is the founder of Mindful Rijk, and she's done some impressive things to get it to this point. And so she's more on the high level side, getting the people in the right places to join in. And I've gotten acquainted in how she does it, so I can share a little bit about that. And I met her in 2018. I was inspired by her mission. I said, let me join. I will do whatever. And then I joined. And basically what I started to do is focus mostly on the communication. So thinking about clever ways to communicate and grow our reach within the Dutch national government. So that's mostly my expertise. So about your question, the funding. So what happened basically at first is Inge was still working at Rijkswaterstaat. You heard Rijk a lot. It basically means Dutch national. And it's the Dutch National Road and Water Authority. And they are already big on mindfulness somehow. It's a very technical company, so I wouldn't at first expect it. Lots of IT, lots of builders, technical design stuff. And basically, she first got a small project to be a project leader of mindfulness within that organization and started giving a couple of trainings a year. And from there, she found people who had a lot of influence, who were like closeted mindfulness practitioners, because people don't tend to wear it on their sleeves when they meditate. And the further you go back in time, the less people will wear it on their sleeves, because, you know, the further you go back in time, the more, yeah, it didn't have the most positive connotation, perhaps in high performance circles. I think, I don't know if that's for sure, but that's my view of it. And so she somehow found the right people in the high places, and that and got in conversation with them, just getting to know each other and telling her about her vision. And I don't know how Inge does that, but she's really good at, when she is in that conversation with someone like that, after that, they want to help. They want to make that vision a reality. And so in that sense, what happened is she gathered a group of ambassadors. She calls them ambassadors. Maybe that's already a key takeaway. And then she speaks with them individually to make make steps within organizations to make budget free for the program, and also gathers them together as a whole. So we also have ambassadors meetings like once half a year. And so basically that's how she got the first funding for Rijkswaterstaat. And that's how we also made the next step. So we started at one organization which was inclined towards mindfulness. Then our next step, this was 2019, we went to what's called UBR. So UBR is like the internal consultancy organization of the Dutch national government. So they deliver services to all of the ministries, all of the executive organizations on different levels. And there she got into the talks with people there and pitching her idea that mindfulness should be part of that. And that's how we became part of what's known as development organization. And they basically see a lot of potential in you. They give you a budget to develop, try new things out. And then within 1 or 2 years, you have to make sure that you are, how do you say that? We say to lift your own.
Delivering your own targets or achieving your objectives?
Making sure that you are not losing money, but rather that you are
paying for yourself.
Yes. Yeah, that's it. It wasn't so hard. So yeah, so that's basically how. And so in those first 2 phases with Rijkswaterstaat, they was not needing to pay for themselves necessarily. They just got a bag of money, and from there they had to show that they were able to expand, that there was a market for them. And in the second phase as well. And it's only now that we are in the phase that we truly have to come equal and make sure that we have enough clients. So, and this basically means that we have to do good marketing within the Dutch national government to make sure that we have enough clients. And so that's also where the communication comes into play.
Well, that sounds fascinating. And just to pitch in, I think, well, my experience is entirely aligned with yours, that a few years ago, people absolutely wouldn't wear their mindfulness practice or their meditation practice on their sleeve. They wouldn't disclose it at all. But what I've found happened again in the civil service in the UK was that as soon as somebody had the confidence or courage to talk about it, others would emerge and they'd say, oh yeah, I do that. And it was that building up of networks, and that kind of inspired to some extent, certainly my involvement with the mindful workplace community, this understanding that it can be very lonely trying to bring this into a workplace, and that and having an extra network, if you like, can be hugely helpful. So yeah, I agree totally. I think it's only very recently that people have been willing to talk openly about it. That's been great.
Makes me also think about an important finding we had. So like, how do you get people on that level together and talking about this? So what we found, for instance, in this mindful leadership masterclass, which is basically a low entry point for someone in a leadership position to engage with mindfulness, and it also approaches them as a leader, which is something it's more attractive, is that there they come in contact with each other and talk about mindfulness in their leadership position. But also afterwards, they are inclined for follow-up. So they want to have mindfulness intervention afterwards. So we found that this is a good modality to get them talking about mindfulness. So yeah, that was just a thought that came up when you just said that.
Yeah, brilliant. Absolutely great. So let's move into that that communication space. So how do you get your communication right? How do you get the message right that you're trying to design?
Well, so I have a feeling that mindfulness has a couple of connotations. Like last year during Corona, we tried some things out, like weekly live meditations. And I tried some funny stuff out. Like we had one mindfulness and resilience, and I put a picture of me with a kettlebell like this, resilience on your working day. And one I had like 2 green batteries in my hands, and I was like charging up on your work day. And somebody below it said, goat wool socks. I don't know if you know that expression, but it's like, it means like, it refers to like floaty people. I don't know if you have that term. Like, so it's like mindfulness very often triggers certain connotations, like these are these people with their green tea and their bells and their blah blah, etc. That's not me, you know. So what I try to do, or what we try to do, is not fall into those categories and see if we can connect mindfulness to novel and attractive images. So I want to show you one piece I made with, so you have to keep in mind, I'm not a professional videographer, I'm a hobbyist, but I do have some, so bear this in mind, but I want to show you a little clip, and it's our most popular one. We made it along in the start, so we weren't that well known then yet. Let me see. Okay, so I'm just gonna roll it, and then I'm going to subtitle it a little bit with my comments. So this guy is a lieutenant colonel. Okay, and he's basically managing a program within the defense department, which is about sustainable, like mental health, physical health. And so he's fond of mindfulness. He's also trained as a yoga teacher. He's also an incredibly tough guy. He's like, he won a 100-kilometer race against a horse, for instance, and he went to Afghanistan and Iraq. So it's like you couldn't write his story, basically. And he said, like, mindfulness has made me the best version of myself. So when you see that, you're like, wow, military guy, tough, ultra running, mindfulness. So you put all these things together, and I think a lot of people will be triggered like, wait a second, mindfulness is not floaty, blah, 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 blah. It's actually attributes I desire. So yeah, so we have him endorsing the program here and also telling about his own program and his role in mindfulness. And within 1 minute, so you don't want to make this too long because, you know, shrinking attention span, stuff like that. So, and let me show you another example where we also used a similar principle. And this is also a very nice technique you could use for your communication. So this was, we organized a online meeting for as many people that wanted to come. I think at that time there were like 150 people coming, and it had like 4 different workshops. So one was a yoga session by her. So a woman, military clothes, yoga, mindfulness. Again, you're connecting like all these different things with associations, connotations, and it was very popular. It was one of our more high-ranking posts, and we also tied it to put in loneliness as a theme. Apparently, that is something a lot of people are struggling with. And also the growth mindset, tie that in. That's also something which has gained a lot of traction lately. And work happiness. So we try to connect mindfulness continually to something else. And in that way, the reach multiplies, kind of.
Yeah, thank you. And I think you've also probably preempted one of my questions around what to avoid, because I think without I don't know how other people would describe our use of language in terms of floaty people, but sort of hippies is often a phrase used for anybody associated with this sort of concept of awareness and mindfulness training. And I used to start a presentation when I first introduced it into my neck of the woods of a picture of a pile of stones, which if you Google mindfulness is what comes up, a pile of stones. And I used to start off with this image of that with mindfulness and said, why mindfulness? And then I'd say, why a pile of stones? And then I'd point out, because this is the image which comes up if you Google mindfulness, and I have no idea why, because that's not my experience of mindfulness. So really calling out some of those misconceptions, some of those ideas, I think is a great aspiration. Yeah, great way of going about it.
And that's also a nice point you're illustrating, because the use of humor is also so powerful when you're communicating about mindfulness, you know, because I don't know if you know that saying, I saw it like some teacher from Tibet, he said, it's good to make people laugh so you can put the teaching in their open mouths. So basically, it really works that way. It's like it opens up people to, you know, their conventions and open up for something new. And sometimes that can also be a little, how do you say it, on the edge, you know? Well,
yeah, absolutely. I think also use of humor needs to be very skillfully done, because it can go horribly wrong horribly quickly. But the other thing, I think one of the preconceptions sometimes with mindfulness teaching and this sort of stuff is that it can be terribly serious and terribly worthy and terribly sincere. So being a bit human about it and being a bit humble about it is sometimes helpful too. Yeah.
That's funny, because exactly that's it. It has this. That's one other connotation you want to avoid. It's very serious, and we are very religious about it, in the sense that we really want to have everyone do mindfulness. So, like for instance, I often do a workshop about the power of habits and mindfulness. I use this workshop especially for people that are not yet familiar with mindfulness, because everyone's familiar with habits that they want to drop. And then I started with, let's temper expectations, and then I show a peanut butter jar, and then with white chocolate special, and then next to it the empty peanut butter jar with a spoon in it, and then in the middle is an arrow with 3 hours on it. And then I just say, like, this happened to me last month, you know. And then it works wonders. Like you see, people really like it, and it opens them up some. So
Yeah.
that also works wonders. Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant. So could you just share a few thoughts around the communication routes that you use, the channels, if you like, to build that connection and awareness?
Yes. Maybe I can focus on the channels and also couple it on an example, which I think is very useful, which you can use in your initiatives. So LinkedIn is very nice because LinkedIn has the connotation of this is professional. It also comes with a lot of, unwritten rules about what works and what doesn't. And this is something you will find out. And you will find out by trying, because you will see, hey, this works and this doesn't. It results in likes or not, It can result in watching LinkedIn a lot for this little dopamine hit of, oh, I've got more likes, So that's a trap. Uh, that's one channel we use. Another one, a newsletter, is very powerful. So build your newsletter list and offer them something useful. Don't spam them too often. That's a very useful one. And this initiative I will mention next, this is a very good way to build your new newsletter. I'll come back to that later. Another thing is, within the Dutch national government, there's already so a beautiful communication structure you can use. And so it's very useful to not only build a group of ambassadors, but to build a group of communication ambassadors. So people who are managing the newsletters, the communication channels. So for instance, we have a Rijksoverheid LinkedIn page, which has, I think, 100,000 followers. If they just press like on one of our posts, that's perfect. So they actually did that a couple of times because I know someone there who managed that account. So also map all your communication stakeholders and the channels which they may operate. So in the Dutch national government, we have something called the Rijksportaal. And every Dutch national government employee, all 120,000 of them, when they start their computers, whether they want it or not, I don't want it, their Internet Explorer launches. And what is on the front page? The Rijksportaal. And then on the Rijksportaal, there's news. And we got on there already a couple of times. Well, that's very powerful exposure. And that's normalizing it as well, because implicit being on there means, hey, wait, this gotten through the gatekeepers and somehow it's now on my front page. So that's a nice one. Newsletters, of course, is a very nice one. But we also got a Secretary General posting about us from his personal account, so that can also be a very nice one. So yes, so that will be my advice, is to map your communication network and potential ambassadors, make a list of them, and every time you post something really nice, ask them kindly, hey, this may be nice to share with your network, and also make it easy for them. So don't just link to your article, but give them a little lead with a nice title, which is generic enough that they can use it in their newsletter and link to your full article, for instance. So these are some nice techniques to, lower lower their, how do you say it? The effort they need to make to share it, because they are looking for good content. So if you give them good content and make it easy for them to share it, that makes so much difference. Okay, so the example I want to share. So what we did last fall, which turned out to be brilliant. Not saying I'm brilliant, I'm saying it turned out brilliant. Was we called it an online festival. So basically what it was a series of workshops. And I said to Inge, why are we calling it an online festival? We're not having a party. And she was like, no, let's call it an online festival. Okay, we'll call it the online festival. And then we named it Balance in the New Normal. So it was just as the restrictions were turning up again. And basically what we did was 5 workshops. One, mindfulness in general. One, mindful leadership. One was mindfulness in high sensitive personality. I don't know if you know it, but a lot of people identify as high sensitive or feel, how to say it, overprikkeld, overstimulated.
Okay.
So that's including me, by the way. And the compassion, we did the power of compassion at work, and mindfulness and character strengths practice, like from the via character strengths from the positive psychology. And so with these 5 themes, what happens is every theme, on the one hand, you reach the people that are already within the inner circle of mindfulness, but you also reach a lot of new people who are not yet in mindfulness, but they are in the other topic. And so by using this diversity of topics, you can reach a much larger audience. Also, if you then collaborate with people who are experts on those topics, which they will happily do, usually, then they will also engage their networks, and you have to make it easy for them to also do that, so they don't do that out of themselves. Andrew, you are frozen now, but everyone else is not, so I'll just keep talking. Anyways, where was I? Oh yeah, so you have to engage them as well to make it easy for them to communicate about it, because they typically have a very powerful network effect as well. And then what happened is, because we promoted it through all these channels, so the Rijksportaal, LinkedIn, all the speakers did it on their LinkedIn, we spread it through all the newsletters, we had 1,000 people that subscribed for our workshops. And because it was all online, that was no problem. We could host like top 500 per session. And so, of course, not everyone shows up. Like, I think the attendance rate's like between 50 and 70%. But all in all, it was a great learning experience. It was a great expansion of our mailing list. I think so. All of these mail addresses were also added to our mailing list, and a lot of the people that participated also enrolled into our trainings from there. So we use a platform where we can put trainings on open subscription, and within the Dutch national government, some people enrolled from there. So this is an example which worked out very well for us, and we are doing it this week again. And we have dropped a few balls on communication, which is why we only have 500 enrollments, but still that's quite a lot for the effort that goes in.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, there's so much in what you've just shared, and I have so many questions, but I know that if I don't stay quiet and invite other people to ask some questions, I'll get into trouble. So I will do that. But just to comment that there are 2 things which really come across strongly to me from what you've just shared. One is your enthusiasm, which is just wonderful to see. It's just really infectious, and thank you for that. But also the fact that you're taking a strategic approach. So you're engaging with stakeholders intentionally. You're applying mindfulness to the way that you're building your mindfulness program. You are intentionally finding who are your allies, who are your senior collaborators, the people who are going to really support you, fund you at the start, and then you're working out how to send a very clear messaging with your images, and then you're mapping your network of communication. You're not doing this in a haphazard way. You're doing it with great intent and skill. And that really resonates for me. Yeah.
Wow. Well, thanks, Andrew. Now I'm almost blushing if I wasn't already red. Yeah.
Well, on that happy note, let's open this up for any comments or questions from anyone. Just if you want to use your reaction button to put your hand up, and I'll invite you to ask Bart a question. I saw a hand go up. Yes, Alex.
Hello. Thank you so much for that, Bart. That's been really interesting, insightful. I've got a question around these closet mindfulness practitioners, and I guess, have you got any tips on how you go about identifying them? And once you have identified them, what are the first few things that you say to them to kind of get them on board? We have a few in our organisation, we think, that are quite senior, and we'd kind of like to bring them in as sponsors would be the vision. But it's any tips on how you approach that, really?
Oh, nice question, Alex. Thank you. I'm assuming you are part of an initiative. You have a certain goal within an organization, and so perhaps this person you are targeting is targeting is a it's like using marketing words in the mindfulness context. Sometimes it feels a bit weird because they're like targets that you are, well, etc. Anyways, so I suppose on the one hand they are someone who meditate and have benefited from that, but what's more important is that they are a leader with strategic goals. So yes, you have an entry for that they understand that meditation is useful, and they may not just brush it away like floaty stuff, but you have to meet them on their strategic goals, because that's what hurts for them. That's what they will feel. So I guess, and this is more Inge's expertise, but I guess what happens is you find the connection on that level and then tie it to and I guess the first step would just be like to make sure you get half an hour with this person to get to know each other, connect to their strategic goals, and then bring in mindfulness or the initiative or the plan you have.
Thank you. That makes sense. Absolutely.
Can I just add, if I may, Bart, that my experience was that a lot of senior people look very confident. They may not always be quite as confident as they're pretending to be. So by approaching them and inviting them a context in which they can safely talk about this transformative capacity that they've benefited from, and they know their teams well, but they just won't have the confidence to necessarily do it, you're helping them enormously. And so approaching that, they may not be willing to do so, but certainly my experience was I was fairly senior in the UK civil service, didn't tell anybody about it for 3 years, just wasn't going to do it, until eventually as a set of circumstances arose where I did have the confidence to do it, and suddenly I found not only was I not dismissed as being floaty, but people were biting my arm off to find out more about it. And I think that kind of builds confidence in these people who want to talk about it but don't know how to. So they may be really waiting for your opportunity and grateful that you're approaching them.
Fingers crossed. That sounds like a plan. Thank you, Andrew.
Any other questions?
And maybe.
Oh yeah, but Bart, and then we'll come to Tessa.
Thing to it. What are a strategy we use when someone is interested? So let's say that the goal is that they will also do mindfulness trainings within this organization, 1, 2, 3 or more. So what we typically do is a 3-step process that we first start with the introductory workshop to find out if the people within the organization are actually interested in mindfulness trainings. So this is also a low entry way for someone to commit. And then from that, you gather whether there is interest in following the 8-week program or whatever more extensive program you are offering. And that will be a strong basis to actually land the bigger assignment. And then it's important to also do the measurement, we found, because from there you can show that it actually worked. You did actually deliver on their strategic goals, and that will lead to 1, a very powerful piece of communication, and 2, someone who will remain a client and perhaps even become an ambassador. And one little thing I want to show, which would work really well, this would actually lead to the Secretary General also posting about this, was this one. So we posted it on LinkedIn. We said 9.1 was the average appreciation for the training, and we say someone from HR department tells us what they found, and the participants tell us how they experienced the training. We connect to a very well-known scientific model. So you connect personal experience, HR, science, very high rating, and then you have something which works very well to yeah, as an entry point for new possible clients or the next assignment.
That's a great tip, Bart. People love evidence, don't they? Especially senior people, to have some evidence. And I think I'd add that, you know, Alex, if you don't yet have evidence within your own organization, then getting some from a different organization. And of course, we have materials in the community on the website that you can access and use.
Thank you very much.
Tessa, would you like to ask a question?
Thanks, Andrew. Thank you so much, Bart. I love the idea of turning smoking rooms into meditation rooms. That's got to take off. I really like some of your ideas about the jar of peanut butter and that illustration as habits that we can all relate to. So I was thinking, with your kind of quite creative way of communicating, how do you describe mindfulness to audiences? Because I think it's a question we've played around with a lot, you know, how to explain what mindfulness is. So do you use a traditional kind of John Kabat-Zinn definition, or do you do something more creative, or yeah, any examples of how you describe what it is?
Okay, let me go. That's a very nice question. And I'm also always interested how other people do it. I saw Jamie, he also did it for our ambassadors meeting, which was really nice, by the way. That was also a very good move to have Jamie talk at our ambassadors meeting. That's just a side point. But to your question, describing mindfulness, I just grabbed my little PowerPoint, and I will go through it very fast, so as not to use too much time for that. Let's see, where is it? Oh yeah. No. Wait. Are you seeing my slides? Yes, now you're seeing my slides, right? So this is a variation on the peanut butter. I say this is my daily caffeine. This is what happened last week. And then I drank this as a hipster drink, which is equivalent to 2 cups of coffee. And then this happened, very pure chocolate, very healthy, but not if you eat the whole bar. And then this is the peanut butter jar, you see? So that's the shtick. Anyways, what I usually do to describe mindfulness is say, let's make it very concrete. It's usually very floaty, but let me take you on a short exercise. And based on your experience, I will describe what mindfulness is. Then I typically take them on a 3-minute breathing space or a little longer. And I ask people to turn off their cameras. I found out people find it quite awkward to meditate with cameras on. So you can just say that and people will be like, yeah, that's awkward. So they will turn their cameras on. They will appreciate that. And then I basically say this. So on the top right, this is the definition you typically find in scientific literature. It's from John Kabat-Zinn. To use your attention in a specific way, conscious in the present moment without judgment. And then I say, actually, it's a bit like the muscles on your body. You were born with it, you already have it. Some people have more of an inclination to it than others. Me personally, I came from far. And this is something you can develop by simple practices like we just did. So what is it? It basically consists of 2 aspects which are complementary, which is why we typically refer to it as the 2 wings of mindfulness. One is consciously attending, which we've practiced by noticing the body, focusing on the breath. So I tie it to their concrete experience. And I also sometimes mention here, like, so this builds your ability to focus, which in itself is very valuable because our focus has been deteriorating, which is found in studies. And people recognize that because most people feel that they have crappy focus nowadays. And then I say, but this is only half. The second half is equally important and underestimated. You learn to observe with an open mind. And we are so used to attaching labels, good, bad, this I want, this I not, on everything, putting it in boxes. It's very valuable to see things with a fresh eyes, because this allows you to see your patterns and break through and make new ones. So And then I sometimes tie it to the brain frequencies. I'm going in this too far, I know. Okay. And then I say, this is a very simplified thing, is what happens when you do the mindfulness meditation. Doesn't matter how many times you go into thinking, it's about gently inviting it back to awareness of whatever it is. And then I tie it to these brain frequencies. Okay. And I usually show this one as well, by the way, and then go into the effects. All right. So that's the long-winded answer.
That was brilliant. Thank you. Yeah, really, really useful.
I particularly like the 2 wings of mindfulness. I think that's a great idea. Great way of describing it. Yeah. We have time for a couple more questions, probably.
I'm also going to look if Inge already sent me some things which I should show to you now. Yeah, perhaps the one thing, some things I can also say. I found that mindfulness can be connected to very many topics. And one thing we did, for instance, was connect mindfulness to sleep. And that works incredibly well, because so many people don't sleep well, or don't sleep soon. And so this is to map for yourself, what are some topics where I can connect mindfulness to, maybe interesting entry points. Because this attracted like more than 100 people when we organized a session about that. And those are all people that are coming in for sleep, but afterwards they know about mindfulness. That's one step that they are closer to making, starting to practice, and etc. So that's also something I want to add.
And just on that, so another couple of things which are really coming across strongly for me are one, remembering that not everybody understands mindfulness. So I think it's really easy when you're in a lovely community like this, and when you're spending a lot of time with mindfulness teachers or people who practice mindfulness, to kind of get into a mindset, and I know I've done this, where I'm kind of expecting, well, why doesn't anybody else get this? And of course, I don't have to wind back too far. It's only 10 years ago that I had, not only did I not have a clue about mindfulness, but I was incredibly skeptical. I did think it was all about floaty people, and I wasn't interested, because that was my perspective on it. And so it's important, I think, to remember, how do we make this accessible for people who aren't steeped in it, who don't practice, and also your point about barriers to entry. So as well as barriers to communication, how do you make sure that the barrier to resharing your message is really low? How do you make the barrier to getting involved, getting the first taste of mindfulness really low, so it's easy for people to access?
Yes, yeah, exactly. So it's about finding those hooks, and then being very clear about what it is and isn't as well. Yeah, definitely. I'm very happy to ask another question, but I'm trying to restrain myself. Failing miserably. Anybody else would like to ask a question? Yes, Annie.
It was less of a question really, and more of a wow. It seems very similar to some of the things that Ellie and I have been doing with Dorset Council, in that we've been offering courses, but also much shorter bite-sized courses for managers, to try and get them in there to see it as a respected tool in their tool belt for leadership. Running regular introductory sessions as a way of getting the interest going for people to sign up to the longer courses. And we've just recently started offering 3 standalone days after each of the longer courses, one on sleep, one on eating and problems people have around, food, and one on, we call it Move Well, sort of a little bit around mindful movement, one on Speak Well, around sort of communication. And yeah, so they're fairly new, and we're still piloting and getting the research on that. But anybody that's been on any one of our other sessions is just invited to to sign up for it, and some people come along when they haven't done the longer courses and just want to come along for those, and it's kind of like stealth getting people interested, really. So
Can I ask you something, Annie? That sounds really nice organizing. And how are you gathering feedback?
We use a very simple e-form survey that gets put into the session at the end, and because we're delivering on Teams, excuse me, and because I'm also what we call belts and braces, where I like to have a bit of an insurance policy. People leave that Teams meeting because they got back to back in their diary and they rush off to something else. So I like to just send a follow-up email with the link there as well, and really put it on a plate for them. And we're getting fairly good response rate, and we've been getting, I would say, overwhelming positive evidence, which means that because I work for a local authority council in the southwest of England, it means that we can show the evidence at the end of each financial year to our senior managers that they provide a little bit more money from the wellbeing budget to continue to fund this. So it started in the year 2019, 2020. We were commissioned to deliver 3 8-week courses, and we're in our 3rd year now, and it's just gradually, it's really slow. And I host a mindful space once a week as well, and there's other stuff we're plugging into with other organisations locally. So it's slowly. I don't think we're quite as savvy though about the quite as clever about the getting some of these sponsors to really step up, senior sponsors. But what's interesting is those that come to the leadership sort of managers course then turn up to the weekly drop-in, and other staff see senior managers attending the drop-in. So
yeah, so I find it I'm still searching like for what would be the best framing to get the senior leaders in, So for instance, I have this book here, The Mindful Athlete, from what's the name of this coach? He coached the Chicago Bulls and the LA Lakers, etc. So you have quotes from Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan in there. I wouldn't say Michael Jackson, but Michael Jordan. And I'm like, maybe we should do a session, because many people in high management are also athletes, because they also want to perform their best in that sense. So maybe we should organize not mindful movement, but the mindful athlete session, and in that way, get them interested, get all these high performers in there. I don't know, just a thought that came up today, and now you're saying this is also reminds me. Yeah.
I think that's a really interesting link between the high performance, whether it's in an athlete's field, and of course a lot of athletes become speakers on the corporate circuit because they're inspiring to leaders who also want to achieve at a high level, but also follow a lot of sport often.
Mm-hmm.
So look, we have run out of time, which is shocking because that went incredibly quickly. But thank you so much, Bart, for all of your insights, your enthusiasm, your wisdom. It's been really well, it's been great for me. I've found it really inspiring, and I think we should show Bart our appreciation in the usual way.
Thanks. You also. Thank you very much for inviting me, and yeah, it was an honor to be to share a bit of what we are doing, and probably I could learn equally as much from each one of you, but somehow I was the one talking a lot today. So I hope in the future to also become part of the community. And I already gave my intention on that, but at this point it's so busy right now, which is also a good thing, of course. And I'm about to go on an 8-week holiday next week, so that's also well, maybe after that there's a lot of space, mental space. Well,
definitely. Well, have a wonderful holiday, and we'll very much look forward to welcoming you into the community.
Yeah, sure. The reason I dare to say this is because I heard Jamie is going away for 3 months. So yeah, I can come out of the closet. Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you again, Bart, and thank you everybody for coming along today, and have a wonderful evening or daytime wherever you are.
Thank you. you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Have a lovely evening.